There is a specific kind of pain that does not announce itself. It does not arrive like a crisis. There is no dramatic moment, no single event you can point to and say, that is where it started. It creeps in, slowly, quietly. One skipped workout becomes 2 weeks off. 2 weeks off becomes you stopping altogether. You stop cooking and start ordering in. You stop calling people back. You stop doing the things that used to make you feel like yourself. And then one day, you look up and realize you are living a life that feels completely foreign to you. And you have no idea how you got there. That is a diagonal spiral. And almost nobody talks about what it actually feels like from the inside, because from the inside, it does not feel like a spiral at all. It feels like reality. It feels like this is just who you are now. I am here to tell you that that is a lie, and I'm going to show exactly how to stop it, using real neuroscience, not just motivational fluff. Part 1. Understand what's actually happening in your brain. The first thing that changed everything for me was understanding that a downward spiral is not a character flaw. It is a neurological pattern. Neuroscientist Alex Korb explains it like this. Your brain is constantly making decisions about where to send its limited resources, be it dopamine or serotonin. These are the chemicals that regulate your mood, motivation, and energy. When you are in a downward spiral, the brain enters a kind of conversation mode. It reduces the output of these chemicals because it has learned, through a repeated negative experience, that effort is unlikely to produce reward. So you feel flat, unmotivated, heavy. Not because something is permanently broken, but because your brain has adapted to an environment it perceives as hopeless. The extraordinary thing called discovered is that you do not need to feel better to start changing this chemistry. You just need to do the right things in the right order. The brain does not require you to believe it will work. It just requires the input. Part 2. The gratitude trick that actually works. Most people roll their eyes at gratitude advice. I did too. But Korbert's neuroscience behind it is impossible to dismiss. When you intentionally look for things to be grateful for, you force your brain to scan its environment for positive information. That scanning process itself activates the prefrontal cortex and releases dopamine. It does not matter if what you find feels small, insignificant. The act of searching is what produces the chemical shift. Kor's specific recommendation is this. Every night before sleep, write down the 3 things that went okay today. Not things that were amazing, not things that you are deeply grateful for, just things that were okay. The bar is deliberately low because the brain in a downward spiral will reject anything that feels dishonest. Okay is honest, and okay, repeated nightly, begins to rewire the default scanning patterns of the brain, from threat detection to possibility detection. Within 2 weeks of doing this consistently, most people report a measurable shift in baseline mood. Not dramatic, but real. And real is everything when you're trying to reverse this direction. Part 3. Use your body to override your mind. Here's something that genuinely surprised me. Korb argues that physical movement is the single most powerful tool available for shifting brain chemistry, more immediately effective than almost any other intervention. Exercise releases not just dopamine but also serotonin and norepinephrine simultaneously. It activates the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and mood regulation. The exact part that goes quiet during depression and low mood. It reduces the stress hormone cortisol, which is one of the primary chemicals driving the spiral downward. The critical insight from Korb is that the dose does not need to be high. 20 minutes of walking is enough to reduce a measurable neurochemical shift. You do not need a gym membership or a training program. You need to move your body continuously for 20 minutes. Ideally outside, where natural light can also boost serotonin independently. He also highlights a less obvious physical lever: touch. Human physical contact, even something as simple as a handshake or a hug, releases oxytocin and reduces the activity of the brain's threat detection center. When we are spiraling, we tend to isolate, which cuts off this input entirely. Deliberately seeking out small moments of physical connection, sitting near people, physical contact with a pet, even a brief exchange with a stranger, provides a neurological input the brain desperately needs during a spiral. Part 4. Fix your sleep before anything else. Korb is emphatic about this, and it is the piece most people skip over. Sleep is not a passive recovery process. It is when the brain actively clears metabolic waste, consolidates emotional memory, and resets the sensitivity of its reward circuits. Poor sleep literally reduces the brain's capacity to experience positive emotion the following day. Not metaphorically, measurably. His practical advice is to anchor your wake-up time first, not your bedtime. Pick a time you will get up every single day regardless of when you fell asleep, and protect it without exception. This regulates your circadian rhythm faster than any other sleep intervention. Within 1 week of consistent wake-up times, most people see meaningful improvement in mood, energy, and emotional resilience. He also recommends dropping the room temperature, keeping the room completely dark, and avoiding screens for 30 minutes before sleep. Not because the blue light is the main issue, but because screens keep the brain in a state of alert, scanning that directly approaches a neurological wind-down process sleep requires. The downward spiral is not your destiny. It is a pattern, a neurological pattern built through repetition, which means it can be dismantled the same way it was built, one small input at a time. Write down 3 things that were okay today. Walk for 20 minutes tomorrow morning. Wake up at the same time every day this week. Reach out to one person you've been avoiding. None of these feel like enough. That is exactly why they work. The brain does not need a dramatic gesture. It needs a new direction. Repeat consistently until that direction becomes the default. You've already started by watching this video. Keep going.